when I visited Dublin, it's a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, I was not sure what I would think of a suburban environment. I'm not a suburban guy, so I'm much more interested in what happens in urban areas. But I have to tell you that the program is really there to validate what is going on the application forms. And I was quite impressed with Dublin. Dublin's had some challenges as a community, but I learned a lot from Dana and the community in terms of its political, business, and institutional commitment to the intelligent community movement. Not only was Dublin now the second time in a row, the top 7 intelligent community, but they've also started off as a Smart 21 community. And a lot of communities that apply, it doesn't happen just instantly. They learn from the process and they continue to engage and be involved with the intelligent community movement. But Dublin's very interesting. Here's a community of 41,000 people who are able to attract a workforce of 70,000 people. How many of us in our communities are able to say that? That nearly, not quite, but nearly twice the number of people are part of the workforce. And in order to do that, Dublin did some very special things in its community, and you're going to hear from Dana about that. But one of the things that it did was it determined to engage the community and the civic leaders in developing and going after its own destiny. Communities that are intelligent communities often have to meet a crisis. You heard this morning about Chattanooga's clean air issues and how that community developed self-confidence and that can-do attitude as a result of a crisis. And we're going to be asking Dana to talk a little bit more about the kind of long-term vision that community is creating for itself, for prosperity of its citizens, but also for the future citizens that they're creating and attracting. One of the most important pieces of this is a decision that was made to develop what is called Dublink, and we'll talk about Dublink as a piece of infrastructure. It became the central focus, though, of the community's economy. And I spoke with not only the economic development people, but also with their urban planner about the vision for the future of this community. And it's not just a vision for a typical suburb. This is a vision for a community that has, in fact, taken a tiger by the tail, decided it was going to focus on its own destiny, and is coming up with plans to really create an incredible community of the future. The other thing is that Dublink, as a piece of infrastructure, as an enabling piece, has created an incredible psyche in the community about ensuring that every aspect of that community takes advantage of that significant infrastructure. And we'll talk a little bit with Dana about that as well. Now, just because we have this ubiquitous asset in the community, that's not all that the community is all about. The community is also very warm and welcoming. And we'll talk a little bit about the nature of the community in a few minutes. So thank you very much, Dana. You've not only spent some time with me as a guide and leader of your community, and by the way, I only wish that I had the kind of respect in my community that you get from the people who speak so highly of what you've been able to achieve as a leader in the community. And I thank you very much for taking me around, and I want to also mention that I think of you now as a friend.
Ohio, the state of perfect balance. Here you'll find the bright lights of the big city, coupled with the peaceful quiet of the countryside, where adventure awaits at every corner of the state, and all within easy access. Columbus, the state capital, is located in the heart of Ohio and is the state's largest city and the 16th largest city in the country. In the Central Ohio region, you'll find world-class business headquarters, diverse housing, and a pipeline to 115,000 college students. Located in the northwest corner of the Columbus, Ohio metro area, Dublin is one of Ohio's fastest growing cities. Approximately 25 square miles and home to more than 40,000 people, the city of Dublin has been recognized by the Intelligent Community Forum as a Smart 21 community for 4 years in a row, and in 2010 and 2011 was named one of the top 7 intelligent communities in the world. Forbes.com recently cited Dublin as a top 25 place to move in the U.S., in a ranking focusing on areas most likely to attract professionals.
Dublin is a 21st century community where you'll find everything you need to enjoy a quality lifestyle, from booming businesses and a knowledgeable workforce to vibrant community events, great schools, and wonderful friends and neighbors.
Dublin's community life is characterized by the friendliness of its residents, its quaint historic district, nearly 40 neighborhood parks, and a slate of special events, which include Jack Nicklaus's Memorial Tournament at Muirfield Village Golf Club. The city has also been tapped to host the 2013 President's Cup, making it the only city in the world to host a Ryder Cup, a Solheim Cup, and the President's Cup. Dublin is home to outstanding medical services and providers, including Dublin Methodist Hospital, which recently was named one of the nation's most wired hospitals for the 3rd year in a row.
Dublin's diverse and sound economic tax base has provided the financial foundation for the city, both the present and into the future. The city's continued economic vitality is a result of quality development, strategic planning, and aggressive and focused efforts to attract and retain high-quality commercial development.
Business Week Online named Dublin the best small city in Ohio for startups, and Fox Business News proclaimed Dublin the #1 city in the country for startups.
Dublin, Ohio is synonymous with excellence in education, and the Central Ohio area offers an educated and highly skilled workforce. The community also has an unrivaled entrepreneurial spirit. The City of Dublin is tapping into that innovation to create jobs, develop new technologies, and help companies form and grow. We've built the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, or DEC, around this concept. At the DEC, we provide resources to help startup and high-tech companies take their ideas to market.
Dublin's steady growth is advanced by its economic diversity. The local economy is free from domination by any one activity, public or private. As a leader in technology innovation, Dublin was one of the first cities in the country to deploy both an extensive fiber optic and Wi-Fi infrastructure to support the broadband economy. Dublink, a partnership with Team Fishel and SZD Whiteboard, is an underground fiber optic highway providing competitive service, connectivity, and redundancy for voice, data, and video communication systems. This high-speed network provides instantaneous access to the global marketplace. Utilizing Dublink, the city also has installed a Wi-Fi network providing mobile access and enhancing speed, function, and reliability. Through the Central Ohio Research Network, which Dublin launched in 2005, businesses can directly connect to the Ohio Supercomputer Center and link to Ohio's colleges and universities, research labs, and hospitals via 1,600 miles of high-speed broadband network.
The City of Dublin and OCLC have grown up together. OCLC is a nonprofit membership computer library service and research organization founded by the presidents of Ohio's colleges and universities. OCLC uses Dublink to connect its 2 primary U.S. data centers. Indeed, initiatives such as the Entrepreneurial Center, Central Ohio Research Network, and community-wide broadband point to an exciting, sustainable future for the City of Dublin. And we at OCLC are proud to be a part of that future.
Well, Dana, thank you for coming to New York and being part of this. You've been a regular. Your community has come a long way, but you're a regular in terms of this. Your community has a real program of transformation and wonderful opportunities for startups and so forth. But at one point, there was a kind of a crisis, wasn't there? There was a kind of an evolution that you guys looked at and said, we want to do something that's really special.
Again, thanks for having us, and thanks for all that the ICF is doing to help us along our way. Yeah, we faced a crisis. It's probably one that someone would consider it a good crisis. We were in rapid growth mode in the 80s, 90s, one of the fastest growing cities, definitely in our state, if not the country at the time. So our crisis was around trying to keep up with the demands for infrastructure and on our infrastructure. So if you add the Telecommunications Act of '96 and significant investment we were making at that time as a relatively small city in our infrastructure, we needed to make sure that our road infrastructure that we had just invested in and all the landscaping that went with it and everything wasn't being cut up and running our investment. So it got us thinking about the deployment of CLECs, or people entering the telecommunication industry at the time. And because we had such a high density of digital demand and telephonic demand and video demand, we had to figure out a way to accommodate that. So our thoughts became not how to prevent it, like a lot of cities were doing. There was a lot of national discussion about how to prevent that relative to the Telecom Act, but our attitude and the attitude of our city leadership was how do we accommodate it? Because our view was that and we knew at the time, now this is going back 15 years ago, so we knew that our companies would demand this infrastructure. And there's one thing that I've always believed in, I think our city's always believed in, and that is if there's one thing local government can do and do well, it's to set the conditions for resident quality of life and, of course, for successful business. So we felt that one of those conditions, obviously, is infrastructure, as all of us know who work in the cities every day. So we felt broadband was the new infrastructure that local governments needed to accommodate. Now, we had been fortunate as a city in that we were relatively bandwidth rich. Now, we're going back to the cable TV days here that I'm talking about, and we had multiple providers in our community at the time, so we did have competition. So we wanted to ensure rapid deployment. We wanted to make sure that we continued to have competition, because the more competition you have, the lower the price, the more service provided for the value, and the more capacity that would be made available. So we wanted to accommodate that. So we put in place a right-of-way ordinance that governed that, and it was actually Schottenstein, Zox & Dunn whiteboard. Greg Dunn's here, who helped write that many years ago, and put that into place. A lot of other communities followed suit within our region. But in effect, what that did, and I don't want to sound bureaucratic about it, but what that did was set those conditions to accommodate. That then turned into a partnership with Official Company, where they deployed, as a result of the franchise we gave them, a multi-conduit bank system throughout our commercial district. So over time, we began to realize the value of that, because our facilities, municipal facilities, were relatively fragmented throughout the community. So we started connecting up our city facilities through that. So we began to realize the value of interconnecting and running your own fiber optic system. So then we figured out, when Nationwide announced that they wanted a suburban campus and they located over 5,000 employees in Dublin, they cited Dublink as one of the reasons for their decision. And then we said, hey, there's something to this. So then it just started evolving into an economic development play. So the conduit bank accommodated competition, rapid deployment. Our institutional fiber network accommodated the Central Ohio Research Network, which you heard about in the film, connecting companies to the Ohio Supercomputer, and the Academic Research Network, known as ORNet. And then it also accommodated our ability to connect some of our businesses where we've allocated some dark fiber to some of our large businesses, gave them access directly to data centers, cloud computing, and interconnect points. So we just started leveraging this, and the next thing you know, it really became centric to our economic development program.
So you have a community that you've been able to enable many different kinds of business opportunities.
Correct.
So the kinds of businesses that are there, can you elaborate a little bit more on some of those businesses? They're incredible names.
Well, I mentioned Nationwide Insurance, which has over now their mothership headquarters is in downtown Columbus, but we have over 5,000 of their employees in Dublin. One of our centerpieces that we're very proud of is Cardinal Health. Cardinal Health is a Fortune 17 company that was really grown in Dublin from a very small company. They're now Fortune 17, and they have their headquarters there. Wendy's International, Ashland.
By the way, that's for those Canadians, that's Tim Hortons.
Yes. Oh, by the way, we also have Tim Hortons' U.S. headquarters is in Dublin, and we're hoping that they expand and have a bigger presence there. We've had a lot of companies that have grown. My mic just, oh, there it is. That have started and grown in Dublin. We just did an analysis and found that we have over 50 corporate headquarters in Dublin, and they range from very small to very large, like the Fortune 17 Cardinal Health. One of the most recent ones that we've been working with is called City Barbecue, which again is a restaurant chain. And the fun thing about that is Mike Mueller, who started that company, started it in his driveway in Dublin. And it was a roaster for barbecue. And he makes fun of me because we actually cited him for violating a zoning code and wouldn't let him do that anymore.
I thought government was supposed to help.
You know, so he makes fun of me about that all the time, but our city council just passed an economic development agreement. And he's in 4 states and growing very rapidly, and just announced that he's going to establish his headquarters in Dublin. So it's great to have another one of those. And so anyway, I could go on and on. We're very blessed, very fortunate to have a lot of those kind of companies, and we're creating more of those every day with our Entrepreneurial Center.
And yesterday, if you attended the workshop, I talked a little bit about health and used the hospital in your community as an example of now why I don't mind hospitals. But in any event, would you like to talk a little bit about the hospital that we toured?
Yeah, Dublin Methodist Hospital is part of the Ohio Health System, which is the larger of the hospital systems in Central Ohio. We're fortunate to have the Ohio State University Hospital system, as well as Mount Carmel, and we have Nationwide Children's, which is recognized as one of the top children's hospitals in the nation. But the Ohio Health System, they have several hospitals in the region, their headquarters in the region, and other administrative operations. They built the Dublin Methodist Hospital. They're just into their 3rd year. It's about a $100 million facility. They just invested another $20 million in it this year with a cancer treatment component to it. But the really cool thing, as I mentioned yesterday, about Dublin Methodist Hospital is Cheryl Herbert, who is the president of it, she really grew up in hospital system from being a nurse to being a hospital president, and she was able to design that hospital from inside out. And that's literally, when you see the cool architecture to it, which was on the screen earlier, it really reflects it being designed inside out. And it's focused on a healing aspect, which is called the Pebble Project. And the inside of it is like I don't know, it's more like a spa than I think those words you used, as opposed to a hospital. But, I mean, that's the feel of it. But the really neat thing about it is the technology that they leverage. They're completely paperless, which drives me nuts. Every time I go in there to meet with them, they're all sitting there with no paper, and I've got my day runner still, and makes me feel antiquated. But it's paperless. It's very wireless. It's as the video mentioned, they've been recognized 3 years in a row now as the most wired hospital in the nation. So they're just doing all kinds of neat things, not only within Dublin Methodist Hospital, but the entire Ohio Health System. I mentioned yesterday about how they're leveraging our fiber optics, because all of their hospitals, their headquarters, their remote clinics and so forth are hooked up on our fiber optic system, and they're leveraging that not only for their own purposes, but they're also supporting more remote hospitals that aren't within their system off of that, such as with the stroke network and monitoring intensive care unit beds and the like.
So you've got multinationals, you've got significant SMEs in your community, you've got hospitals that take advantage of doubling. What are you doing, though, as a community to help start up some of these companies so that they could take advantage of that enabling technology?
Yeah, as an economic developer, which is the primary hat I wear, you focus a lot of your economic development on, they tell you in the textbooks, you should focus a lot of that on retention and expansion. You don't want to lose it's one thing to attract, but it's better to keep what you have and try to help it grow. So what we realized is that we really came from a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. If you look at a lot of those companies that were on the screen, and too many to mention, a lot of those were started in Dublin and have stayed there and grown significantly. So we said, hey, there's something to this. So we engaged our partners, Tech Columbus, who is our regional incubator, and the folks who really help with the startup entrepreneurship within our region, and we developed the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center. And we started just over 2 years ago with that, in an empty 40,000 square foot building with 0 companies in it, and we have over 50 companies in there now. and it's just going gangbusters, to
Well,
say the least.
so much
And,
so that when I arrived at 7:30 in the morning, the place was already buzzing.
yeah, it's always full of activity. We do a lot of, it's one thing to house companies there, and we do not subsidize that, or we do very little. So it's not your typical incubator model. It's truly an entrepreneurial center. It's a collaborative model, which we like. It's kind of hard sometimes for people to get their head around that, because when you think of incubators, you think of heavy subsidization, and as government, we're not doing that except for a few offices. We started a green integrator there, which we're really proud of. That was our initiative last year. So we have green startup companies. We did a quick survey and realized we had over 30 green startup companies in and around Dublin. So we said, there's something to this. So we brought them together within the Entrepreneurial Center, and they are thriving and working together and doing some really neat stuff. And even the city is beta testing some of their products, like EcoChem, who is doing clean diesel. We're testing that in our fleet and so forth. So there's just a lot of collaboration going on. One of the big things about the Entrepreneurial Center is not just a place to come and hang out to grow your idea. It's a place to come and network, to get coaching, teaching, mentoring, and training. We had nearly 3,000 people attend our training programs last year alone, which really, the first year we didn't even track it. Last year I said, we got to track this because there's an awful lot of activity going on. And it really blew us away just how many people were coming there to get access. And that's not just servicing our city, it's servicing our region. So we're real happy about that. June 21st, we're launching our International Business Assistance Center. And we decided last year, as a result of participating with the ICF, the aha moment I had here last year was that being a part of this really made me feel global. And I just felt that we were not doing enough in economic development to promote global, but yet we have all these global companies in Dublin. So then it became, what's going to be our initiative to try to help small to medium-sized businesses get with our global companies, create a venue where they can network and interact, and try to help them become global companies as they start up and grow their companies. So that's our new initiative. We're really happy about that.
So I like the idea that the public sector is not only enabling things to happen, but is also innovating on its own in order to move its community ahead. Now, I'm mindful that there are people here who might want to ask a question. So is there anybody in the audience, before I ask any more questions, that has a burning question they'd like to ask at this moment?
I'm Jag Rao. This question is not just for Dublin, but most of the intelligent communities here, except perhaps AC Molino. The question is, as the broadband gets into your community and also the surrounding communities, does that act as an incentive spur for consolidation of municipal services such as fire, police, and emergency medical services, and so on, and thereby reducing the property taxes for the homeowners?
That's a terrific and timely question for us. We are, as a region in Central Ohio, we're competitive with each other, but yet we're cooperative. And we do a lot of cooperation in the way of joint investment in infrastructure with other communities within our region where we touch each other and that sort of thing. But we are actually have been having a dialogue for a number of years, but have really stepped up that dialogue on a regional level on that very point about the potential for consolidation of services. As we look at budget crises, across the nation, but particularly in the state of Ohio, there's a lot of loss of revenue to the local government, school systems, and the like. So it's putting us in a position to try to do, not just from the aspect of lack of budget, but a dialogue around how can we become a better region by leveraging these things. A great example of that is several municipalities in Central Ohio have embarked on deploying their own fiber optics, so I'll stay focused on that for a second. So we are now in a dialogue of how do we interconnect all of those institutional fiber assets together so that we can do things like do joint IT platforms, host each other's servers. There's a huge dialogue in our public IT community about how to leverage that as an asset so that we can save money on those kind of platforms. So that's one of many examples. You talked about fire and the like. That discussion is happening too, as how can some of those shared services happen. So yeah, Central Ohio is very much into that dialogue right now.
Is there another question from the audience? Okay. You know, one of the things that's very important when we talk about the criteria is advocacy and marketing. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what you do in terms of promoting Dublin to the world?
Yeah, we really embarked on this the last couple of years, and it's a real pet peeve of mine, and I always tell Lou that the last couple of years that we've got to know him, the thing that we've learned the most is we don't tell our story that much, and we need to do better at that. So the thing that we embarked on the last couple of years was really trying to promote Dublin on a national and even a global scale. So we've been out there marketing. At the regional level, within the Columbus region, we have a new entity called Columbus 2020, which is really become a marketing advocacy group for our region. So I'm probably the biggest noisemaker when it comes to keeping them honest about that. And they are out there working nationally and globally to promote the region. And we have to be a partner in that as a municipality within that region to help do that. We've been doing a lot of our own marketing and advocacy in the last couple of years through a lot of the economic development channels. I think we need to do more globally, which is part of our International Business Assistance Center to try to help us network the people who are working and acting globally so that we as a municipality can take better advantage of that and use those folks to help us form even more relationships overseas. So, and we hope to leverage the ICF and all the folks that we're meeting through ICF to do the same.
Now, before I ask my last question, is there anybody from the audience here who has one last question that they'd like to ask yourself?
Tom Simmons, Mid-Continent Communications, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You talked about marketing as a consortium with other groups. How do you fund that?
Actually, that's being funded significantly. I'd say 2/3 by the private sector leadership within our region, and 1/3 by public entities. We have what we call the Mid-Ohio Development Exchange, which is it's really a network of our communities. We have over 40 cities, villages, townships, county within Central Ohio. So there's 40 entities that are contributing, not all 40, but a significant number of those contributing to that effort through public funding.
So Dana, when you've initiated your first application to ICF, there were some things that probably went through your mind, but now you've graduated to the kind of community that ICF likes to showcase. You're a great model. Do you have some advice for other communities here that are beginning to think about applying and being, part of the whole ICF movement? Do you have any suggestions for them?
Well, my suggestion would be really know the principles of ICF and use those principles as a guidepost. A lot of people know me and know I like to do it first and then talk about it. That's probably why I'm not very good at advocating how we do things. I like to be very action-oriented, maybe to a fault. But I would really focus on that criteria and use that as your guidepost. We continue to use it. We're using it year in and year out, and it's been a great journey for us since we started using that with ICF. It was a good journey before, but we didn't know how to quite organize all that we had been doing into something that made sense. So the ICF was a great way to do that. So I would encourage people to latch on to that criteria and use that as a guidepost and build your systems around that.
So thank you, Dana. One of the things about this community is it's not just a suburban community of Columbus. It's a community that has a destiny that it's been able to take advantage of, and it's now planning for a significant urban redevelopment. And here's a suburban area that is going to intensify. And I spent some time with your urban planner, and he talked about urban intensification and using the technology to help attract the kinds of businesses that will come to your community, and instead of just being suburban, they're going to be part of the urban community, and you're going to attract people to that community as part of an intensified center. So thank you very much for showcasing that to us. And I welcome the opportunity, and I'm sure you do, for anybody to come to Dublin to see it for themselves. So thank you very much, Dana. I appreciate it.
Thank you.